Right, let's try this again. It's now 8:55 p.m. and this is the Cat's Whiskers podcast live. Hello and welcome once again to tonight's Cat's Whiskers podcast. Hopefully you can now hear Tina. Please say something.
Hi!
Please let us know if you can hear her on Twitter.
Who thought this live thing was a good idea?
Yeah. Honestly, it gets worse. It gets worse. It really does just get worse. Anyway, we're starting all over again. So we're going to be looking ahead to Panthers against Manchester in Altrincham on Saturday with the help of Clare Freeman from the Forecast podcast. We'll also be looking ahead to Panthers against the Giants at the NIC with the help of Patrick Smyth from A View from the Bridge. We'll also be looking at the other Elite League news, including Zach Fitzgerald's top span, and also looking back on the GB Norway games that took place on Tuesday and Wednesday. But yes, you can. I think they can hear you. Yeah,
oh, good.
She's loud and clear. You're all loud and clear, so everyone can hear us.
Hashtag live problems.
It was my fault. I set the settings wrong on Skype, so blame me. It's all my fault. It's all to do with me. So
it's not just things that go wrong when I'm in charge.
Yes. This is what happens when a load of technophobes get together to do a podcast. Anyway, we shall start once again. Panthers taking on the Manchester Storm in Altrincham on Saturday. It's the third meeting of the season. The previous two games were Challenge Cup, which finished 8-5 at the NIC in a bizarre game, and a 4-3 penalty shot win to the Panthers in Altrincham, Peter Callis scoring the winning penalty shot. So this is the first league meeting of the season. And Tina, what are we expecting?
Lord knows. Ordinarily, I would say I would be quite comfortable about Saturday, and Sunday is just going to be another, all-out battle with the Giants as it can be. Last game being a massive exception to the rule, but I don't know. I mean, we've just had a massive bump in the road. We're on the back of a 0-point weekend, following the high of the Continental Cup, and I can well imagine that morale in the locker room is on the floor. Two defeats that really have hit. I know they hit me hard. Being there at that game against Edinburgh was a really, really tough watch. And then the Twitter updates that were coming through for the Brayhead game on Sunday, it was just. It was a really tough weekend to take. So, if we're feeling it, the players must be feeling it as well. I mean, it depends if the reaction that Corey Nielsen was asking for after the Edinburgh game actually arrives. We need a spark, and we need somebody to. Not somebody. We need something to spark the team back into life, because we've got a team that's capable of performing, but have we got a team that's capable of reacting to last week's disappointment? And that team, if it's there, needs to show itself. I don't think there can be anything less than 100% for both games this weekend. We need to outplay, outwork and outcoach the other teams. Saturday is obviously us going into somebody else's barn, so we need to fight harder. We need to leave it all out there, and in order for us to bounce back successfully, I think we need a minimum 2 points, and 4 points would obviously be amazing. But yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. I'm comfortable with the game on Saturday, but that is dependent on which Panthers team shows up. Is it pre-Continental Cup or post-Continental Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I said I really, really have a bad feeling about this weekend. I don't know why. I mean, I wasn't at the games last weekend, which from what I've been hearing is probably a blessing. But I don't know. I've just had a bad feeling all week. And Manchester's a tight rink. They've got a really good team who are built for that rink. And I can just see us struggling there. And I really, really hope I'm wrong. But I don't know. I think this might just be the Storm's time to get a result against us. Because let's say they've beaten, since they came back, they've beaten us once, which was in a pre-season game. They've not actually beaten us in a competitive game. So they're going to be feeling that. They're going to be fired up for that. And I just wonder how fired up the Panthers might be. I really, really hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about it whatsoever. I mean, what about you? Do you think they can go in there and get a really, really good result?
I think, as I've said, I think they're capable. I think the team is capable of going in there and getting a good result. It's just, if they can find their way back to where they were pre-Continental Cup. I mean, we've been suffering with the loss of, we had David Clark out for a little while. Chris Lawrence was just starting to really get be on fire just before his injury, and obviously Stephen Schultz, he was starting to look like his old self, the player that we knew at the beginning of last season.
And Tina's disappeared. This is wonderful. We're really not having the luck tonight at all. So let me see if I can get her back. I'm really, really sorry about this. I know there's people listening. Let us know what you think. I mean, we both said we don't think it could be a good Saturday. So let us know on Twitter at CatsWhiskers and hashtag TCW Live. So let us know what you think. I'll see if I can get Tina back. Just bear with me a second. Right. She's ringing, which is good. Are you back?
I'm here. I'm so sorry. I've no idea what happened.
Right. Sorry. As you were saying.
Yes. Where did I get to?
We was talking about a difficult game, difficult building.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'll just sort of. I'm not quite sure how much that you heard, but I'll just sort of leave with a closing statement of. It depends if the team can find their way into back to their old selves, the pre-Continental Cup selves, and pick themselves up, go into somebody else's building and give them hell, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, it's time to get a Storm view on proceedings. Earlier tonight, I spoke to Clare Freeman from the Manchester Storm podcast, The Forecast. On Saturday, Panthers travel to Altrincham to take on the Manchester Storm in an Elite League encounter. I'm delighted to say joining me at this time from the Forecast podcast is Clare Freeman.
Hello, Jono, or Jonathan, should I say.
Yes, we've just discussed that. Please don't use that again. Claire, it seems a while since we last talked. I think it was at the playoffs when we last spoke to each other. Yeah, it's been quite a long time, and the Manchester Storm now are very different to the Manchester Storm of last season.
Absolutely. I mean, and you can kind of see that these people are getting noticed. You look at people like Cody Carshea. I mean, what did he get? Kind of Player of the Month for October for the Elite League magazine, of Elite League, of something else, Elite League, something else. That's great that he's getting noticed. Jack Prince last night in Ice Arena, Wales, for Team GB, got the team's only goals, both goals. Clearly proving that his diet of cabbage and Brussels sprouts is doing the job. And then
that's keeping everyone away from him. That's
well, maybe you wouldn't want to check someone when they've had that amount of Brussels sprouts.
No, it could be dangerous.
Connor Varley as well. He's not someone who kind of puts all the points up, but he's consistent. I think he's secretly Omar Pasha's man crush, but Pasha says to us that he loves all of his players equally. I'm not so sure. I think Connor is someone who's kind of caught everyone's eye, not just at Storm, but in the league. I mean, we were playing the team which is top of the league, Cardiff, last Saturday at home, and we had the lead, into the end of the first period. They came back, and then with 2 minutes left on the clock at the end of the game, we managed to get an equaliser, and that was thanks to Connor Varley. So we walked away with a point after a game against the team who were top of the league. So, yeah, quite a different kind of setup this year. I think people are feeling a lot more comfortable, but there's still work to be done. There's a lot of rookies to the Elite League in this team. They're still working out. They're still getting used to the schedule of, it's quite grueling, isn't it? We're coming up to some of our 3-game weekends soon, so that will be interesting to see how we do on those.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the word comfortable there, and I suppose you are comfortably in mid-table in the league. 10 points from 10 games, which sees you 6. In the Challenge Cup, 6 points from 6 games. So, bang on .500 hockey.
Can I just say, you missed that we're top of the Gardner Conference as well, or are you one of these people that's like, it's not a proper conference?
I don't know. I'm not. I just haven't looked at the conference stats before.
How dare you? How dare you? Can I just say, actually, it's interesting, really, and I know for Challenge Cup, like Group A, it's game over there for Fife. They're just not going to qualify, and Group A is kind of done. I know in Challenge Cup Group B, you guys and Sheffield Steelers, you're sorted, right? You're going through for qualification. And actually, at the moment, it does look like Cardiff and Manchester will go through. But if you look a little bit closer and do the what if, could if, that kind of stuff, if Cov win both of their last 2 games in regulation time and Storm come away with 0 points from both of their games, then that's when the table turns. So while Storm fans are kind of thinking, we're playing Coventry on Sunday, for instance, for a Challenge Cup game. If we win that in regulation time, then we know that we have qualified for the Challenge Cup. So, and even a point will help us towards that. But knowing we're going to have to go and play Cardiff in their own barn the following week, we just want to take the pressure off ourselves. So there's still kind of movement within Challenge Cup if it doesn't all quite go to plan.
You take on the Panthers on Saturday. You've already played them twice in the Challenge Cup. An incredible 8-5 loss to the Panthers at the NIC, which was an absolutely bizarre game from watching it. And then a very close penalty shot loss in the return back in Altrincham. What do you make of the Panthers from what you've seen of them so far this season?
I think that you guys seem to have a good start. You then got riddled with a load of injuries. And I think it's taken a little while for you to get back. Plus, you guys have been a bit distracted with the Continental Cup. Well done, by the way. Somebody explained that to me, like the Champions Hockey League and Continental is like the Champions League in football and the Europa. That's how they and analysed it to me. Yeah. So obviously you had been a bit distracted, and I won't lie that when we were all sat there last Saturday in Altrincham watching our game against Cardiff, and we were getting the notifications of what was happening for you guys with Edinburgh, we were so shocked that Edinburgh took that one from you, slightly dreading the fact that we were playing Edinburgh the next night as well, but then we beat them. So if that works out, if Edinburgh can beat you and then we can beat Edinburgh, then that means that we can beat you.
Yeah, but I think
That's not quite going to happen.
Well, no, it doesn't work like that. But I think, in all seriousness, we have said before, in this league, any team can beat any other on any given night. It is that close.
I think it absolutely is, and you know, I know this might be kind of old news for Panthers fans. I did see he came back on Twitter the other day, but I think Cam Janssen, the loss of him in the league, not just in your club, has been quite sad. Really, I think he was always a character that I looked forward to seeing when the two teams met.
Yeah, he certainly brought a lot of energy, and I think we are probably missing a bit of that, especially after the last weekend that we've had. But back onto the Storm, and I think people seem to forget that you are such a young team, because you've only been going, 14, 15 months now. But the promotion that you guys do is nothing short of incredible. And of course, you had the Justin Bieber visit last week.
Yeah, I mean, if people kind of want to find out a little bit more about what really happens, then go back and listen to last week's episode of The Forecast. And I interview people like Paul Swindlehurst, Jack Prince, Mario, Darian Dazinski, and they talk about what happened off ice, because they obviously all went out with him and spent the whole night.
They all went for a drink, didn't they? Yeah.
More than a drink, you know. He took them out to a club. He took them back to his place. He fed them. Honestly, wow. it was you know, there's a whole other part of the story which, just watching the video and just seeing that one picture of him on the ice, it's more than that. So, you know, I'd recommend go and listen to that. It's only half an hour. But, you know, promotion wise, Neil Russ is on the money. You know, he worked his arse off to make that happen. And I know, because obviously with my day job working as a journalist, I try and, you know, help get any kind of coverage for these type of things possible, and that I've been there when Bieber was meant to come and then he didn't, so, you know, kind of being part of that. But, you know, there's other different things that are happening. You know, they were in Manchester Evening News, our local newspaper, which is really great to kind of get that coverage, and the boys are kind of doing stuff for me as part of Children in Need. We had Paul Swindlehurst, who's obviously from Bolton, and Jack Prince here in the BBC studios, kind of explaining the sport to people who perhaps haven't ever followed it before. So there is a lot of work. And then obviously Brad Rubachuk, a legendary Manchester Storm player from Manchester Storm of Part 1, is coming back in February. And interestingly enough, that for that game in February, I can't remember the date, I think it's the 19th, but there's 500 tickets already being sold for that game. So that game will be a sellout. Yeah. And to kind of be starting to kind of get to the point where you think you're going to sell out games which are happening in 4 months is incredible. And, you know, don't forget that Manchester Storm have still got a huge amount of promotion to come because of our double headers, which are, well, it's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We play the Steelers. New Year's Eve is away at Motorpoint, and then New Year's Day is at Altrincham, and they sold out last year. So there's so many of the little bits to come that can kind of be out there for promotion over the next few months. And obviously that jersey, which I'm sure you put a bid in to get Justin Bieber's signed jersey.
Oh, yeah. I was one of the
fair
first.
£3,000, I suppose.
Yeah, I've just got that lying under the desk right now, actually.
Well, it's all going to the Christie, so, you know,
yes, it's a fantastic cause.
Great to know that that's got so much attention.
Claire, it's a brilliant story. It's a real feel-good story for the Elite League, and I want to thank you for coming on, and also I'll give you the next few seconds to give your podcast a plug.
Thank you very much. Well, we are on Twitter. We are The Forecast MCR. We're on Audio Boom, the same name, and also we're on iTunes as well. So you can find us all over, and even on Facebook. Wherever you go, The Forecast will be.
Claire, I want to thank you very much for coming on, because I know you're off to a concert tonight, so you've got a very busy schedule. But have a great time, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Many thanks to Claire for joining us there. Tina, anything you want to pick out from what Claire said?
Well, yeah, I mean, she talked about Challenge Cup remaining games. I mean, it's bonkers that we're still talking about Challenge Cup games in November, but there it is. I think the other group is pretty much
they're just five. There's just positions now. 5 can't actually qualify.
It's just jostling for position in the other cup group, but ours there's still a little bit of room. I mean, like Claire says, if it comes to Blaze having a really good run and Storm all of a sudden having a bad run and losing their last 2, then they could find themselves out. But at the moment it is the Blaze that are in the most precarious position. I mean, they've got their maximum points they could take is 7, and they're relying on the Storm and the Devils to lose. Obviously they kind of have that in their hands a little bit because they do play the Storm, but yeah, there is still room for manoeuvre there. So I can understand why she mentioned it.
We've had a tweet in from Richard Martin at TwistAgain1964. He says, I think we have more about us than to roll over after one poor weekend. Wouldn't bet on it being pretty, but a win is achievable and I'll be there. So I hope so. Well, I hope so too, Richard. I certainly do. If you would like to get in touch with us, like Richard has, at Cats Whiskers TV, #TCW Live, and we will read out your tweets before the end of the show. Okay, moving on to Sunday, and Panthers will take on the Belfast Giants at the NIC with a 4 p.m. face-off. It'll be the second meeting between the two sides this season. The first, which was also at the NIC, the Giants won 2-1 in overtime, which it had to be said was a pretty awful game. So, Tina, do you think a complete bore fest like last time, or hopefully something better?
Oh God, I hope not. I don't think I think the only thing that got me through it last time was that it was my niece's birthdays, so we had a rotating schedule where I had a small child sat next to me, and what's going on there, Tina, and why has he done that, and where's he going now, and that kind of got me through because watching the game was kind of Yawnsville, to be perfectly honest. But it was unusual because it normally doesn't go like that against the Giants. It was a really strange one. I mean, we've got a. I don't know. I mean, our last 10, it's sort of spattered with odd games here and there. We're on 6 wins, 2 losses, and 2 overtime losses. So it's not the first time. I think I remember the last overtime loss. It was a really, really tough one to take, as I recall. But they have the capability of hurting us again. It's, I don't know. It could go either way. So, I mean, of the 2 games, this is the one I'm the least comfortable with this weekend. Again, it just depends what Panthers team is turning up. If we have a good game Saturday, I'd like to think that the momentum will carry us through. And if we don't have a good game on Saturday, then hopefully the Panthers are metaphorically speaking, looking for blood. that would be my best case scenario.
I mean, the Giants do have some dangerous forwards, like the likes of James Demarais, Blair Riley, who has scored 4 this season, Michael Forney, who we all know about from his time with the Steelers and of course was with the Giants last season, Steve Saviano, Chris Higgins, who we know all about. They can definitely hurt us. Yeah, very much so. The other thing about the Giants is they have a superb ability to restrict shots on their netminders. It doesn't seem to matter which one of them is in net. They are very good at deflecting the puck away. The netminders have a lot less saves to make than some, but the most other netminders in the Elite League, so they're very, very well protected. So I don't think it's just the forwards that we have to bear in mind. I think we have to make sure that we are getting good shots through. Well, again, earlier tonight I got to speak with the host of A View from the Bridge, Patrick Smyth, and he gave his thoughts on the Giants so far this season and the upcoming game. Our second interview tonight on the podcast, Panthers taking on the Belfast Giants at the NIC on Sunday. Hopefully it'll be a much better game than the last time we played them at the NIC. To talk about it from a view from the bridge, it's Patrick Smyth.
How you doing, mate? Always a pleasure to be on the Bears Whiskers.
Never ever a chore, yes. We did inflatables last night, you're too late.
That doesn't stop me. Bad jokes have never stopped me, mate. You know that.
So, Giants currently in the league, 5th with 11 points from 9 games. Challenge Cup, 2nd in the group with 11 points from 7 games, which has seen you qualify. A mixed start to the season for you, I think it's fair to say.
Very much so. It's been a real mixed bag for the Belfast Giants, mate. It's interesting that we've brought in some players that we thought or we hoped would improve the side and maybe bring us that fill that gap that was vacated by 6 points. If we had got 6 points, 7 points, we'd have won the league. So therefore, when we brought these players in, the likes of Alex Foster and of course bringing back Rutherford and Steve Saviano and Blair Riley, we thought, are these the players that are going to give us that consistency? Because it was the consistency last year that was sort of holding us up. Unfortunately, we seem to continue with that inconsistency, so we don't really know what we're getting week in, week out. Sometimes we're blowing teams away, like the Brayhead Clan 5-1, or we're sucking the life out of a game and still grinding out a win like we did at the NIC, as you mentioned. Or then we're going toe-to-toe with the Sheffield Steelers for 50 minutes, having 10 minutes of absolute madness and shooting ourselves in the foot. So it's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster with the Belfast Giants for the last, say, 18 to 20 months. But you wouldn't have it any other way, would you?
Well, no, absolutely
you
not.
would, actually.
Well, you would.
But
do you think that there is some pressure, some fan pressure there? Because it's now, you've not won any silverware for the past 2 seasons, so I think it's that sort of thing. You expect Giants to be there and thereabouts. Is it imperative that Derek Walser brings home some silverware this season?
Imperative's an interesting word to use. Sport, mate. You know that. You've been through enough of the years and years of the Nottingham Panthers and where you were, and then coming into what would probably be deemed a purple patch over the last 5, 6, 7 years. The Giants, since their inception, was it 15 years ago, we've always been, like you say, there or thereabouts with silverware, be it in league title hunts, not even winning, coming second or whatever. I think statistically over the life of the Elite League, we've gathered more points than any other team in the Elite League, and that's because we've been spoilt by the fact that we've always had good teams challenging for titles. We're not going through that sort of phase at the minute. I hope that changes. Of course I do. There's always pressure on every single coach, especially when budgets are being paid to bring in the top level players, and there's always pressure to win something, and the league is the something that everybody wants. Would we settle for a cup, be it the Challenge Cup or the playoffs? Yes, but there has to be that push for a league title. So to answer your question, yes, there is pressure on Derek Walser to gain a team that are going to challenge for a league title. Whether that's imperative to him surviving as a coach, I don't know. I can't answer that, because we could come second or we could come third with a couple of points behind and give it a really good run. So he would deserve another chance. We haven't won anything, but he'd deserve another chance. The problem being is if our home form for the last 14, 15 months has been abysmal. We were the best team on the road last season, and at home is what lost us the league title. And that hasn't really changed. We're having a lot of fans being disappointed and quite vocally disappointed by the way that the Giants are playing at home, maybe not performing to the standards that they wish. Whereas myself, obviously going to more road games, I'm seeing a different team going out there and grinding out wins and playing well. So if we can sort out our home form and let the away form look after itself, then maybe we'll get a different outcome. But over the next month and a half, we've got a majority of road games as the SSE, I keep doing that, is being used for various concerts and the like. So I think over the next 15 games, we've got 13 away from home. So it's going to be a real test for the Giants.
You mentioned earlier about the last game at the NIC, which you really did grind out the victory in overtime, and that's unusual. It was such a dull, boring game, and you don't normally get that between these two teams, because both teams generally like to play attacking hockey.
Definitely, yeah. Over the years, the games there have been more often than not barn burners. More often than not, unfortunately, I've watched us be the losing side, but the few times that we've been in the winning end, it's been fabulous. But yeah, I don't know what I don't know what they expect. Walser seems to approach every game in a different style. I think he talks a lot about wanting to impose the team on the game rather than trying to play to the strengths of the other team and neutralise them. I don't think that's what happened in Nottingham. I think we tried to neutralise it, and I think we did neutralise it, and then Blair Riley comes in, goes up close on Mika Wakeman and takes the overtime winner. Regards to how we're going to play, and if that's a reflection of what we're going to see this Sunday, I can't say, because I looked at the game that we played at the Ice Arena Wales against the Cardiff Devils, and my goodness, what a team they are at the minute. But, I think that, if we play that game and Nottingham play to their strengths, I think we'll struggle. So it's Jekyll and Hyde with the Giants. We don't know what we're going to get. What we did talk about on our own podcast this week is the fact that I hope we don't go on the power play, because of the last 10 games, we are 2 goals from 36.
Yeah, it's not a great power play record.
It's horrendous.
Really, and Panthers also with a very, very good penalty kill at the minute. But you never know. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where it could completely change round depending on how things go. What do you make of this Panthers side? I know you've probably not seen that much of them this season, if at all. But a few changes. What sticks out from the Panthers side for you?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen very much. I'll be bluntly honest. I haven't seen very much of his except for the Giants and some highlights and stuff like that. But looking at you, of course, you've brought in the size of Brian McGrattan. I know he hasn't scored a point in 7 games, but that's not what he's there for. He's there to add that sort of fear factor and give protection to the side. He's not going to be your Cam Janssen. Best little ones. But he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be that. But he is going to give presence and that sort of intimidation on the ice. With regards to, I like Brad Moran. I think Brad Moran's an excellent guy to have. I think he's your captain this year as well, isn't he? Yeah. But I think he's a brilliant leader on the side. Robert Farmer, always given what he got. Chris Lawrence, I find very interesting. Considering he did well for you guys. Went away, didn't do so well at the Blaze, did all right at the Steelers, and then came back in and has been not leading the line, but a great player for you. And then you have brought back in Peter Callis, which I thought was very interesting, because as well as his goal scoring record was when he was first around, I don't remember him pulling up trees. And I think when of listening to you guys and the Cat's Whiskers and the players, what it sounded like you needed, I didn't think this was the guy, but we'll see. And then we go look at the back end and Mika Wakeman, a proven commodity, absolute quality in this league, as good a player as you'd want to follow Kowalski when he's on form. He's one of the best netminders, one of the best input netminders in the league. So the Nottingham Panthers, you know as well as I do, the Nottingham Panthers put a good investment into their side to bring in as good of players as they possibly can. And Corey Nielsen, he's won the league once before, and he knows what he wants from these guys, and he knows what he wants when he goes into the market. So they're not a team that are going to be written off at Christmas time like we all used to enjoy.
And what about the Giants themselves? Because I've heard a lot of good reports about Alex Foster.
Yeah, good interesting choice. Alex Foster maybe hasn't. He's come in with a great pedigree. He's come in with a great CV and his time at the Marlies and the likes. He's come in with a real. He looks like a player who should kick up a gear. I don't think we've seen that yet from him. He did score at the weekend. He has been out with an injury for a while, and maybe we will see. Of course, him and Steve Saviano played together last season in Italy, but maybe those two will link up a little bit better. Saviano is an absolute speed merchant, but the player I think that people should look out for is Blair Riley. Riley is an absolute workhorse. He is. He's odds on to be the October Player of the Month that we've got, but that's because he does not stop. The year we won the league with Paul Lady in charge, we had Dustin Whitecotton, who, if you remember back when TV's Neil the Coach Russell was on the podcast, he used to call Dustin Whitecotton a solid workhorse. Blair Riley is exactly that. He's on the back end. He's back checking like a demon, and then he's creating the offense and he's scoring. And that is the player thus far who has really impressed me the most. And you're talking about a guy who in the AHL was a bottom six forward, and he's come into the Elite League and he's most certainly a top six, maybe a top line forward. And that line that he's got with Mike Forney and Chris Higgins, remember him?
Rings a bell.
The line that they put together seems to have clicked really, really well. The problem for the Giants being that as well as that line is clicking, there's no secondary scoring, or very little secondary scoring, as much as we're trying, and that's something that really needs to change.
Okay, mate. Well, I want to thank you for coming on as ever to look ahead. A quick plug for A View from the Bridge.
It's always a pleasure, you know that. I'm a long time listener, it's at AVFTV on Twitter and kingdomofthegiants.com/podcast for this week's show, where we get Neil Russell to sing some Justin Bieber.
Great stuff. I shall have to get in and listen to that this week. Mate, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, buddy.
Many thanks to Patrick, as always, for joining us. So, Tina, anything you want to pick out from what Paddy said?
Okay. Well, what can I say that Paddy's not already covered? he's just like a wind-up toy, Just wind him up, set him off. He's brilliant to interview, isn't he?
Yeah, the Duracell buddy of the podcast union, Patrick Smyth. All right. I think on that note, we'll move on to other things that have happened this week. And Zach Fitzgerald's DOPS review, which we mentioned on Monday's podcast, and also was mentioned yesterday. He received a 2-game ban from DOPS after Coventry Blaze requested supplemental discipline in an incident that led to Brian Stewart, their netminder, being injured. Tina, we've seen the footage. I think it's a fair enough decision. What about you?
I don't think that anybody can grumble too much about it. I mean, I know...
there's plenty of Sheffield fans who are grumbling about it.
Yeah, and I would expect that, to be honest, because if it was a Panthers player that had done the same thing and they'd had a review requested on them, I would expect exactly the same reaction from the Panthers fans. It's a sort of, putting your team's tinted specs on for a moment, and I genuinely I think it's fair, but I understand the reaction, and it's one. The split of the reaction is also expected, because the rest of us are kind of looking at it objectively. I mean, obviously you've got a slight little bit more vitriol coming from the Coventry fans because their number one netminder came out of it injured. So they've got a little bit more behind them in terms of their bias, if you will. But yeah, I don't think that anybody can complain about that too much. I think we all said it at the time, that the original intention is him skating to the net, but it's that extension of the arm that just does not look good.
Staying with the Steelers, and they moved very quickly to replace Tyler Mosienko, who left last week, signing Swede Jared Hagos, a centre who's 33 years old. Lots of experience, 132 games in the AHL, 109 games in the DEL, and 438 games in the Swedish Hockey League. Tina, I think they've upgraded.
Certainly on paper they have upgraded. This guy's his elite prospects profile is pretty impressive. If he fits in well with the team, he'll be a dangerous player to face. I'm not looking forward to that particular scenario. It just goes to show, I think it was Paul that said it at one of our other podcasts this week. We're visibly having troubles in our team, and we react very slowly to to injury, long-term injuries, and the Steelers lose somebody one day and 2 days later they have somebody else, and there's somebody else who seems to be better. From the outside looking in, he looks better. It definitely looks like an upgrade. So I think if this guy does click, then very, very soon it'll be Tyler Who.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one little bit of controversy, though, that he was photographed with what looked like a picture posing with a bear that he just shot. But you've got something that someone from Sweden has sort of clarified on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking at the picture itself and just taking it at face value, it doesn't look good. It's really it's something to us that seems very inhumane. It's not something that we think should be happening. This has gone up in one of the Panthers Facebook groups, and then Marco Weekman, Mika's brother, has come in and tried to give his side of the story in terms of the cultural differences, and that's, I think that's what it comes down to. I think it's a cultural difference. He's sort of tried to explain that it's not it's not something. They have a moose hunting season, and if the bears happen to be around, there is a bear hunting season. There's culling, in operation. It's keeps the numbers down. Once upon a time, that sort of thing was done for food, and I think when you get to the more northern regions of the Scandinavian countries, I think that is exactly what it is. I mean, before we started recording, I was watching a program. I think it was some sort of live. It's not like the Country File live type program, but it was in an Arctic region, and the Inuit, the natives up there they still go out and hunt whales, but it's for food. It's so they can eat, basically. So you have all these things to consider, really, before you make a snap judgment about somebody. But I totally understand why everybody's getting so upset about it, because it's not something that we do. It's something that is completely alien to us, and it's something that just seems downright cruel.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see bear going down Hucknall High Street. Seen plenty of moose, though.
Oh, you're a bad man.
Ben Davis has been released by the Norfolk Admirals in the ECHL after 5 games and just 1 assist. Looks like there'll be a bun fight to try and get him back in the EIHL, but as yet, no idea where he is going.
Corey, fetch.
Yeah, exactly.
just go.
Earlier this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Great Britain took on Norway, the number 11 team in the world. A 2-1 loss at the NIC with Robert Farmer scoring was followed by a 4-2 loss at Ice Arena, Wales on Wednesday night. Jack Prince scoring both the Great Britain goals. So, Tina, that's quite a good showing. I
expected a massive humping. Sorry, that's a bad word, isn't it? I expected us to get absolutely washed out. I thought it was going to be, a real sort of tough. I don't know. I thought it was just going to be a real tough, heads down kind of. Oh my God, why are we doing this kind of event? But I mean, I didn't get to see either game, but I followed the updates, and there were, a couple of friends of mine who were at the game at the NIC, and they said, what, this is actually a really good game. It sounded like it had a little bit of roughness to it, a bit of bite to it, a little bit of nasty from certain players. I think it was brilliant. I think it was a really. I wish I'd been able to go on Tuesday. Definitely wish I'd been able to go. But I mean, regardless of what I thought before the game, I wasn't able to. So before anybody starts chirping at me saying that I'm giving all this after the fact, I couldn't go anyway. But yeah, I brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was. I mean, the experiment worked. Quite frankly.
Yep, definitely. Just one final thing: the Panthers Supporters Trust meeting. The first meeting will be at the Bunkers Hill tomorrow at 7 o'clock. They'll be covering what a Supporters Trust is, examples of what trusts have achieved in other sports, and there'll also be an open forum section for questions and discussion. The usual Bunkers drinks discounts and food discounts for Panthers fans will apply. So we are rapidly running out of time, so all I've got time to say is many thanks to Patrick and Claire for joining us. Many thanks to you, Tina.
Thank you very much. Can I just mention one quick thing before we go? Well done to GB ladies today, who beat Mexico in the dying minutes of the game. Well done, ladies.
Absolutely. Many thanks to you for listening. We'll be back on Monday with the Weekend Review podcast. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you then.